Hi, and welcome to this, the 5th edition of the EU Influencer event. That's right, it's today that the EU and the world gets to find out who are the top 50 movers and shakers of the Twitter sphere. I'm Phil from ZN, and I'm joined by Leora, hypermoderator, who will be checking out everything you do and say online within privacy. And she'll be hypermoderating the event. So what are you going to be doing, Leora?
So yes, I will be looking to engage the audience to see what you're tweeting, how you're responding to our polls and our questions, because we want to hear from you. This is an interactive event. And
we're here fully vaccinated and doing all sorts of COVID measures, so it's all good. And by the way, if you haven't yet, get your vaccine shot. And we're going to be talking about vaccines. But before that, I want to go and check out with our social media activation team. Who are those? Those are the people from ZN who are going to look at the online conversation. They're going to be putting out tweets with designs, memes, and to really encourage you to participate, because what matters in this conversation is what happens on Twitter, online. So you follow the hashtag and you check out with other influencers what they have to say. So over to the social media activation team. How's it going? What are you up to today? And tell us what's up.
Hi. 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 Hi everyone. Hi Phil. We are very ready to make EU Influencer 2021 trending on Twitter, but not only. So make sure to engage with us on all our social channels.
Thanks guys. That's amazing. And we're really excited and looking forward to hearing all your insights, seeing your magic online and some memes and designs. I can't believe it's been 5 years, because this is the 5th edition of the EU Influencer event, and every year it keeps getting bigger and bigger and things keep trending, and we hear stories and tweets from this event that basically break the internet. And to do that, we have the hypermoderation that Leora is going to soon be going. She's going to go in her secret lab and she's going to be looking at things. So Leora, what are you going to be doing and what do you want to tell the audience?
Yes, because this event is all about you. It is not just about the influencers, it's about everyone who aspires to become an influencer. And to that purpose, we need you to tweet using the hashtag EUInfluencer, and I will be checking and sharing online the best tweets or the most interesting or provocative tweets. Also, we're active on other social media channels. LinkedIn, we already had a very interesting discussion happening last week. And as well, of course, Instagram stories where you'll be seeing behind the scenes. So we look forward to hearing from you, and make sure to start tweeting as of now.
For our first topic, we're going to be looking at a really critical question, and it's the question of censorship, or when platforms ban certain people. Of course, the news has been all about the Trump ban and the fact that Twitter decided that certain politicians shouldn't be allowed on the platform. They argue that they were in breach of their platform policies. But at the same time, we see that in spite of Trump being banned, we have the Taliban having a Twitter account followed by over 900,000 people. So what we wanted to discuss with some of the key experts and influencers on the topic was, does this make sense? Should Trump be banned? Should the Taliban be allowed to express themselves on Twitter? What should the platforms do? And that's what I've discussed with some of the key influencers in our first segment on censorship or social media bans. Paul, what are your thoughts on whether platforms should be the ones to decide on who gets to communicate, and whether you think they made the right call about banning Trump and allowing the Taliban to communicate?
Well, the electronic platforms like Twitter, YouTube, Facebook have become the public sphere, very important for free speech and democracy. And I think in answering this question, we have to learn from the history of the public sphere, namely the history of regulation of media. And in Europe, it is very clear after the Second World War, with the experiences of fascism, the abuse at the time of radio by Hitler, there was a very broad consensus that the public sphere, whether radio, television, or newspapers, need to be regulated by law. And I would say that if it is so that the platforms are the discussion space in democracy, and 50% of our citizens in Europe and also in the United States, it's not different, now build their political opinion on these electronic public spheres. If that is so, then we need to lay down rules according to which the public sphere here functions. Thus, rules which ensure that fundamental rights and democracy are complied with in this public sphere, and that a discussion is possible in this public sphere which makes democracy function.
And who should be making those decisions?
Well, in the same way that according to the rules laid down in media law, TV editors or newspaper editors make decisions about, what they report and what they don't report. I think, the rules and in the European level now we're talking about the Digital Services Act in particular, they will allocate responsibility to the platforms. I think it's perfectly okay that they make such decisions, but there must be rules which frame these decisions. There must be rules of transparency, there must be rules of redress, like we have it in the press and media regulation.
What has changed, of course, in our modern world is the creation of social media, because social media, of course, is exposed us to divergent viewpoints. It creates an architecture that is very different than the architecture of the democratic debate. Okay, this Thomas Jefferson model, let's say, that that says that the notion of the best ideas come to the top, but social media is not like that. I mean, social media rewards user ultimately for inspiring the greatest degree of emotional reaction, let's say, whether it's joy or outrage or fear or excitement. So the architecture and the structure is quite different. To the point of blocking people on social media activities, my gut and my personal opinion says no, never. Because at the end of the day, of course, social media provides them a weapon to actually shoot out and communicate about whatever they want. But I wouldn't go into the person. I would go into what he or she says. To blocking Trump is not going to stop the ideas that Trump spread. On the contrary, I would say. So it is much more about blocking disinformation than blocking certain accounts or certain people.
Right. And what about if countries block their citizens from using Twitter, for example, but then they themselves are on the platform with propaganda, for example? Should we say you either allow your whole country to join or you don't join either? Or what's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm of the opinion of having an open discussion, debate wherever it's possible and wherever it's necessary. So if the debate gets so nasty or so, let's say, blocked by an amount of ideas that creates a fake environment, because there are different tactics of disinformation and of spreading ideas, and one is basically to just populate social media with a certain narrative by using bots, by using basically by overcoming the barriers and rules that the actual platforms of the regulators are putting into place, and that's another story. But the point is that you need this open debate, because otherwise another one will be created if Twitter or if any platform continues or, let's say, intensifies this kind of practice in going into that direction. And other platforms are going to pop up. At least here we know what is going on, and then we have the decision on our hand. We can decide if we want to block certain person from certain country at a certain moment. But at least we know that they are there and that what they are saying, we can monitor, we can actually learn from it, and we can establish, let's say, narrative to counterfight this, their arguments.
I would love to see the guts, or of Twitter and YouTube and Google and Facebook, if they had the guts to say, look, if there's a country which doesn't allow its people to use our platforms for free speech, then we will not transmit the content of this government. I would say that would be perfectly fine with me. If they had the guts to do this, it would certainly be in line with the rules we have in Europe and also what we have proposed in the Digital Services Act. But do they have the guts to do it?
So basically, we want to see the guts of Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms. And I think the word transparency was something that you're mentioning. Basically, we can also, on Twitter right now, ask the platforms to be more transparent and to see what they're doing to actually share their policy and their strategy, and then the political bodies to take action so that there is a framework. So thank you very much. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Pablo. That was a really great discussion, fantastic insights. But now I want to see what's been discussed on the web. And for that, I'm going to turn to hypermoderator Leora, who's been following the discussion on Twitter and the hashtag. So over to you, Leora.
Yes, thank you very much, Phil. Let's indeed take a look at what's happening on social media, and a lot is happening already. So as you can see on this beautiful Twitter wall that I'm about to show you, you can see that a lot of people have been tweeting, a lot of former influencers, potentially new influencers again, are tweeting on the topic. Remco Timmermans, our previous space winner, tweeted as a response to our poll about what we thought made a person social media influencer. He said it's not just a number of followers or number of retweets for others or a unique voice. It's a combination of all these things together, because it's influence that makes an influencer. What is your opinion? Let me know using the hashtag EUinfluencer so that I can see all the tweets that are popping up and show you the most interesting or provocative ones, as I said before. John is also tweeting heavily, our transport influencer, last year and potentially this year again. We're soon to see. He says that he is quite disappointed that nothing has changed in terms of the commission and that they're still dull as hell, as he said before. Now, one important thing that I want to mention for anyone who is interested in joining us afterwards at the Valeras from 6:30, you can come a little later, of course, as well. If you mention the keyword, the magic keyword, one drink ahead, then you'll be getting a few drinks for free. So take that word with you and come and join us afterwards. Now, we're not just active on Twitter, although that's, of course, where the conversation happens, but we also had some conversations ongoing on LinkedIn. And so we saw a really interesting post by our CEO, Phil, that talks about influence and how to become influential on Twitter and social media. And then we got some interesting responses, including one from Bear Oman. He's from the European Specialist Nurse Association, who says, yes, it's very important to social media, but it's still the face-to-face that is important as well. Now, don't miss our Instagram stories. They are beautiful and changed very quickly, so you can see a bit of the behind the scenes, and also you can see some really nicely built stories. Of course, stories are a great way to engage with your audience in a different way, which we are happy to do with you now. To see all of them in great detail, please go to Instagram. Now, the last thing I'd like to do is to share with you a poll that has just been reshared, which is about officials of countries that don't allow their citizens to join a platform should be banned from that platform. Do you agree with that statement? Yes or no? Keep it simple, or leave a comment and tweet using the hashtag EUinfluencer so we can share your thoughts. All right, now let's go and see about Twitter. Do you like Twitter? Do you hate Twitter? Let's see what Alice Stolmeyer, previously our #1 ranked female influencer, thinks about this topic.
Hey everyone, this is Alice Stolmeyer from Defend Democracy. I used to love Twitter. No more. Coming from me, that may surprise you. Many of you know me as a top digital EU influencer, and some have even called me the Twitter Queen of Brussels. But over the past years, I've become increasingly annoyed with social media, including Twitter. So what changed? First of all, little by little, Twitter tweaked its features in such a way that it's no longer as useful as a source of information. The second change, which is partly due to some of Twitter's increasingly Facebook-like features that I just mentioned, is that more and more, Twitter seems to degenerate in a cesspool of moral outrage. Think about it. If there is one thing that foreign interference and populism and tech platform business models have in common, it is polarization. So I urge democracies to team up and disrupt polarization as a business model for tech. A business model that divides us and is a tool for populists and a vector for hybrid warfare. Now, to end on a more optimistic note, in the past year I have often wondered if I should just leave Twitter, but also because I am simply too busy running Defend Democracy. So I truly hesitated to end my summer's digital detox. But now I'm peeking on Twitter from time to time instead of 24/7, and perhaps that is the best way to use social media. Too little for doom scrolling and outsmarting each other in a moral outrage contest, but just enough to still use it for good.
Thank you. Elise, do you agree with Elise? Do you think Twitter is toxic? Are you still on it? Let us know using the hashtag EUinfluencer. Obviously, that will be a little bit hard if you're not on Twitter. So join the platform. Over to you, Phil.
So turning to our second topic, we're going to discuss something critical because, of course, the pandemic is still going on. Healthcare, vaccine, fake news is still being discussed extensively. So the question is, how much impact has the online conversation had on the pandemic? Have people, have actors, individuals, institutions done enough to fight fake news? And more importantly, is social media and is Twitter helping people to get the right information when they need to? And for this, I'll be turning to another group of experts on the topic.
Now, we've been fortunate enough to get the views of some key influencers on this topic, and John Worth is one of them. We spoke to him earlier this week.
Hello, this is John Worth speaking from the Vosges countryside about European Union communications with regards to coronavirus. I'm not going to talk about myths about vaccines or about corona in general, but two aspects of the European Union's communications around corona, notably the EU's vaccine procurement and the EU digital COVID pass. Those are the two issues which are perhaps of secondary importance with regard to the overall strategy of the EU dealing with coronavirus, but nevertheless the ones that have been the most interest for me as an online commentator about European Union business. I'll start first with the vaccine procurement. I was at another event not directly connected to coronavirus, and the very well-respected British journalist John Kampfner, just as a throwaway comment, said, well, the EU got its vaccine procurement wrong. And I took exception to that comment because it was quite interesting, essentially, that in the spring of this year, the rhetoric developed that the European Union had been too slow in procuring its vaccines. If you look at what the situation is now, where the EU 27 has an excess of vaccines and any European citizen, even 12 to 17-year-olds, can get a vaccine when they want them, that to me is an enormous success. But it's lodged in people's minds that the British or the Americans somehow got there first, despite the fact that in the end, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, the important point in communications was that even at the time when this looked like it was going badly for the European Union in the spring, there was no communication from the European Union to people to essentially say, stick with it, we have this under control and all will turn out to be fine. There were politicians, particularly Ursula von der Leyen and even to a certain extent Thierry Breton, who kind of contributed to that kind of panic narrative that happened in the springtime of this year. Now, some people who'd researched this issue, myself among them, had realised the European Union situation wasn't half as bad as the numbers at that time actually looked. And we've turned out to actually be correct medium term looking at the numbers. So I think the European Commission could have done a lot more at that stage to reach people who were online influencers to get that message out. Bear with us, there will be an adequate vaccine supply, we have all of this under control. The second issue is the EU's digital COVID pass. That's a tremendous system which allows people, wherever they're vaccinated within the European Union or in even other non-EU countries like Switzerland, Ukraine or North Macedonia, to be able to travel and to prove their vaccine status. Now, in comparison, countries such as the United States or the UK haven't got those sorts of systems for their own populations, anything like as well organised as the European Union itself has done. It's an enormous success, but it's not portrayed and communicated as such. So in those two situations, the actual reality has been better than the way the European Commission has managed to communicate it.
Thank you very much, John, for sharing your thoughts and joining us from a very nice location. Now we'll move on to Teresa Fellon. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I would love to talk to you about COVID-19, access to vaccines, and the roles that influencers can play. And my first question is, in the US, the White House is paying influencers, specifically on TikTok and Instagram, to do campaigns so that more young people join in and get vaccinated. And also different states in the US are working with micro-influencers to do campaigns around the topic. So I'm wondering, what do you think? Can influencers play a positive role getting people vaccinated, specific demographics, etc.?
There was a recent study published by Harvard stating that the micro-influencer effect was extremely effective, far more effective than big-name stars who are promoting vaccinations. So the micro-influencer effect between 1,000 and 1 million followers, and they seem to be more believable and people trust them. So, and they can speak to their immediate community. So that has been extremely beneficial. And we've seen that in the United States in some Spanish-speaking communities, for example, in California. So that has been a huge improvement, and they've really had community outreach. So I think that's been a very positive development.
How about the EU? Should we work here? Should we work with influencers too? Do you see a role for yourself here?
I think in the EU, it's a question of mandates and also language. I mean, I looked at some of the EU tweets on these things, and they have very little circulation. I saw, for example, like 43 retweets. So I think that language, community, all of this is very important. So I think it's very important to take place on the national level in order to reach out to the communities in the language that they understand, and even kind of humor that's appropriate for them. For example, this summer I was traveling through France and Italy, and in Italy they have this vaccine campaign like this, but in the UK that's kind of a swear. So it's very much important to be tailored to the audience, and I think that individual member states need to do it themselves, and also even smaller communities need to do that. So I think the EU can kind of set an agenda to try to promote this, but I think it's most important that it's very tailor-made to the special community needs.
Talking about vaccine diplomacy, Chinese and Russian vaccines are used not only to protect against COVID or to spread false information about foreign, American or European vaccines, but also for image repair and expanding power ambitions. So reports from both the US and British governments have revealed how Russia has engaged in efforts to call into question the safety, as you say, through using social media, specifically also other communication. What do you think about this?
Well, the EU had something called EU versus disinfo. And when the pandemic began, they only had 2 people working there. So that's really, really underfunded. So I think that it's understood now that they need more people who can speak Chinese. And so they've hired 3 more people with that. They have, if I understand correctly, 9 people working on this now. It's something, it's better than nothing. But if you look at the deep pockets and the amount of people working on this in both Russia and China, it's just a shadow. So I think that they need a clear mandate to work on this. It's extremely important, as we've seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, to have clear communications. And the tsunami of misinformation really created a lot of chaos early on, and that helped COVID-19 spread.
Teresa, thank you so much for your insights. It's been a real pleasure. The final word on this topic goes to Andrew Stroheim, quite opinionated. His contribution has a lot of background noise, but his views are very clear.
They've done an absolutely horrific job at the EU Commission. This Commission has been appalling on every human rights issue, every major human rights issue that we've been dealing with. And as I mentioned before, they've been a complete failure on the global vaccination strategy, literally blocking wider vaccine production globally by obstructing the TRIPS waiver to release patents on intellectual property related to vaccines and other medical products necessary for ending this pandemic. These people have got to want to end the pandemic, and right now they don't, so none of them absolutely are worth following at all on Twitter ever.
Thank you for those insights. And as ever, this is a really critical topic. So read before you tweet. Make sure that you're promoting science and fact-based information, and get vaccinated. Now, I want to turn to Leora to find out what's been discussed on Twitter, on the hashtag EUinfluencer, on this topic and more. Leora, over to you.
Thank you, Phil. Well, a lot is being discussed on Twitter. As you can see on this beautiful Twitter wall, things are changing all the time. We are also publishing quoted images. So if you like one of the quotes from Teresa Fallon or Pablo Perez, for example, please retweet them and share your opinion. So we got a lot of interesting responses. For example, James Cantor, who says, we are still sharing a lot, putting a lot of our time and trust in social media, and now to fix social media. And he's also complimenting us on this debate. Thank you, James. And John says, sorry, Stolmeyer EU, but emotional polarization makes money for Twitter. Not generating a moral outrage contest is going to damage their bottom line. And how can that be overcome? If you have any ideas, let me know and respond to the tweets so we can show your tweet in the next section. Also, I loved Laura Alexandra's comment that we now have 5 years of EUinfluencer and it's now a staple of La Rentrée. Thank you, I agree, it's nice. And also Bear Oman, whom I mentioned before, says that fact checks are a good antidote to disinformation, according to international research. So that is great. Now keep tweeting, I'll keep checking and sharing your post in the next section. And now I'd like to go to Dave Keating, who was kind enough to send us a video, and I'd love to share with you what he thinks about language.
How we deal with how the EU story is told. This has been something that I've talked a lot about on Twitter with other people about. The fact is the English language media tells the EU story, and up till now most of the media telling the EU story was from an EU member state, the UK, but of course the UK has left. And I and others have noticed a real deterioration in the tone of reporting from the UK since Brexit Day, since the start of this year, that there seem to be a lot of fallacies and biases baked into almost all reporting of the EU coming out of the UK from publications from all kinds of different political spectrums. So that's something that I have worked hard for, and we're trying to come up with ideas how to create more of a European media, and so the EU can tell its own story. And of course that, in my opinion, has to be done in English, because it is the international language that's spoken by half of EU citizens. And so I think that's going to be a big topic for debate, particularly with the upcoming French presidency, which really has set a goal of kind of fighting the increased use of English in the EU. My favorite online influencer, I said this last year, I'm going to say it again, it's Burley Monster. I just love snarky Brussels bubble kind of tweets, and he is really the best at that.
Thank you so much, Dave. Very interesting. What do you think about the use of language and English to promote the EU story? Let us know using the hashtag EUinfluencer. Keep saying it. Over to you, Phil.
And now we're going to look at a burning topic, which is climate change, because indeed, according to a report, we are facing a massive challenge to society. Everybody's been talking about this online on all social media. The Commission has launched its Green Deal. So the question is it enough to tweet about it? What can individuals and organizations do to help save the planet? And that's what we're going to be exploring in this next discussion.
Hi, Elia Handel, Eurocentric on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to talk to you about climate change, sustainability, and the role that influencers can play as well, and social media at large. So my first question would be, how much can social media platforms help to give climate activists a voice and to spread those ideas?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it feels like it's only the social media platforms that can give these activists a voice. But of course, I mean, it's not true historically. If you look at Greenpeace and actions they used to take, decades ago with the ship going around the world, etc. It's not all technology, but given how popular Facebook, the Twitter, TikTok, etc. are, and how effectively people are using them, I would say that it's played a large role in raising awareness of so many things. I mean, if you just look at Greta Thunberg, which is the most obvious example, I mean, that's translated into massive media, traditional media, heritage media, picking that up and making her a central focus on the climate conversation. Obviously, it's not enough. You do have to raise enough awareness and influence and then link it back to an actual physical event, physical action to be able to have a real impact, I think. But I think at this stage where we are, social media has played the biggest role.
Yeah, I fully agree. And also each year we see more posts with the hashtag climate change. Of course, the fires and the floods were shared widely on traditional and social media. Does this help not only to increase awareness, but also to change policy, to make actual factual change?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a part of this group that started from the Columbia Journalism Review that's called Covering Climate Now. And they, like, even in spring, they were like, okay, we know it's going to be worse this summer. Like, please, everyone, do something to amplify which I mean, they were in any case, but amplify as much as you can the link to climate change when you do report on fires, when you do report on floods, when you do report on hurricanes, because these are the things that are more tangible, they're more dramatic, they're obviously extremely sad, and there's a lot of loss and suffering that's already coming out of all the climate changes. But it's definitely something to use to display what is happening now, and we're not even at 1.5 degrees of heating the planet. We're at about 1.1 or 1.2, I think, at this stage. So it's really something that the media is slowly picking up. Meteorologists slowly pick it up. Even now I'm starting to hear it even in the daily news, even Belgian news around Europe, which is very important because that's how you really link it, and policy has to move because they have to respond to, loss of human life for one, but loss of biodiversity, loss of the nature in Europe is going to be, one, devastating, and two, irreplaceable for many decades. So it's just more painful and more costly to not create policy for this.
Some interesting thoughts, Alia. Thank you so much. Robert Madeline couldn't join us directly, but this is what he had to say on the topic.
So you ask what social media can do to create a sustainable Green Deal. The Green Deal in the European context, it seems to me, will face the political reality check this autumn when we get to COP26 in Glasgow. And beyond that, I personally am hoping that the French presidency will see a big jump forward towards consensus positions. They may not be 100% of what Frans Timmermans or the Green Party ask for, but they'll have to be a lot more than what some skeptics seem ready to accept. Social media can help in this debate by keeping the debate honest, by challenging individual actors, whether corporate or civil society, to be honest in what they're saying, and to push towards a middle ground. I say social media can push the debate towards a sustainable middle ground. Of course, more usually, social media amplifies the boo hooray black and white debate, which we are all too used to in so many policy domains. How to shift from adversarial social media to constructive social media, I personally think that it's down to the social marketing of truth. We need people to be honest, but also compelling, sharing the right data points and not just a flurry of numbers. And we need also, I think, to see companies more and more stepping up, not to talk about how great they are in a CSR perspective, we are responsible, but to actually demonstrate impact in the areas that matter for sustainability, zero energy use, zero companies, zero carbon companies, biodiversity, waste and recycling. There's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be said. There are a lot of good facts to share, but we need to curate social media so that it is more than just an endless succession of self-centered sound bites.
Thank you, Robert. That was a great contribution. Earlier this week, Phil and I were lucky enough to meet up with Duncan Lumsden, the man behind Burley Monster, and here is what he had to say.
The big topic has also been climate change, obviously with reports showing that things are getting worse before they'll get better. Every company has been tweeting about sustainability, green things. The Commission has that Green Deal. Do you think that tweeting about it matters?
It matters to the companies and organizations that do it. They want to be seen to be saying and doing the right thing. Now, one of the advantages of Twitter, particularly our Twitter, the EU Eurosphere, Euro Twitter sphere, is that you are not short of people to keep you honest, particularly in this regard. There are plenty of extremely good, extremely popular individuals and accounts that will hold you to account if you're a company or organization having nothing to say but saying it anyway, or if you're trying to greenwash, or if you're just trying to get a sustainability hashtag in there in order to be seen to be doing and saying the right thing. So I think that the greenwashing to an extent comes out in the EU policy social media scene because of that, because you have these accounts that hold corporations and lobbyists to account. So I'm not too concerned about that. And my concern over the years, many years, a couple of decades, has been with buzzwords. And Brussels is a city that can generate them at a rate of knots. And it's almost like you give something a name, and then all of a sudden it means something because it has a name. And there is a risk that sustainability itself can tumble down that route. But every now and then, and it's up to these corporate accounts, when they are held to account, it's up to these corporations and lobbyists and so on and so forth to prove that it isn't just a buzzword, it isn't just a fig leaf. Sustainability, for example, can mean anything, everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. It can be a fig leaf, but it can also be, we've changed our paper provider, we've introduced a cycle to work scheme, we're subsidizing bike purchases for our staff. When it comes down to nuts and bolts, I mean, that's just a general rule of comms. Talk about nuts and bolts and don't just bandy around the policy terms. So I think in that sense, particularly in this conversation about use of social media, it becomes a generic point about comms. Good comms is specific, bad comms is generic. And if you're just saying, we remain fully committed to the UNDP goals and the Paris aims, then if there's nothing behind that, you'll be quickly found out, and you won't get any influence. Just tweeting that out, you won't get any retweets. Or if you do, there'll be rather unfortunate quote tweets with somebody taking the mick, possibly me, possibly any number of others. So I think it's pretty good at self-regulating, and if you are saying nothing, somebody will hold you to account for saying nothing.
Thank you for these really interesting insights. And now over to Leora to find out what the web and Twitter has been saying about this. Any insights, any questions, any tweets? Leora.
A lot of tweets again, Phil. There is a lot of tweeting going on EU influencers topic, some fun things. People want to know where Dave was when he recorded his video, because there's such a nice palm tree on the backdrop, but then also some other things. So for example, Pablo Perez says, that closing your eyes and blocking people or not being on social media anymore will not solve anything. And you need to know, you need to be informed. What is your opinion on this? And then we also have Virginia Mucci, I hope I pronounced that correctly, probably not, says that yes, maybe the EU Commission should have done more to say that things were not as bad as they looked, but did they really believe that at the time? And there's a bit of a discussion about that topic that you can wade into. Now, what we really liked was the fact that Bradley Monster, who we just saw, tweeted, okay, I'm using the hashtag EU Ginfluencer, which is fun, and we didn't think of that one before. So if you want to drink some gin, join us afterwards at the Valera's. Good one, Duncan. So, and then the last tweet that I wanted to show you before going to our poll is one from Gian Paolo, and he says Twitter can be really toxic if you use it for more than use it for more than it's intended to, and there is no need for 24/7 attention. Do you agree? Let me know. I don't think anyone's tweeting 24/7. But let's go to our poll. Let's go to our poll about climate change. We have several polls on the channel right now. And the poll about climate change is asking, you know, all these increased hashtags and all the tweeting around climate change, does it help to increase awareness and, more importantly, change policy? Do you think definitely? Don't you think so? Or are you not sure? Leave a comment, let us know, because we are interested. And by the way, when we spoke to Duncan, he also gave us a special treat, which we definitely want to share with you.
By the way, can I ask you to do one thing? Because if you can bring Belly Monster close to the screen, because I think our viewers really want to see the Belly Monster in the flesh.
Untangle myself. Hold on.
Is it actually? Can you put? Oh, you can put your hand in it. Oh, wow! So it's an actual puppet. I feel we should redo this whilst you kind of just have the Belly Monster speaking. I think that would be the.
So I couldn't hear anything you were saying just then, but.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying. I think you
I'm
should
not going to
redo
do
the
interview. Ventriloquist thing. I haven't used this guy for a long time. I bought him about 10 years ago. And the idea was to do a load of YouTube videos, but I turned out to be shit at them. So
yeah,
I deleted them all. I took them all offline, and
I think there's a future for Belly Monster, the puppet. Great.
I can't even remember what voice he used to have. I think it was a kind of almost like a Flemish growl. But
excellent. Maybe we need to do like a competition for choosing the voice of the Belly Monster. But anyway, thank you very much for spending time with us and for introducing us to the real Belly Monster behind the Belly Monster.
So let us know, would you think the voice of Belly Monster should be, and if he should reopen his YouTube account for you to take a look? Well, now is the big moment, the moment of the ranking. So back to you, Phil. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, I'm going to reveal the ranking of the top 50 influencers for the EU Twitter sphere in 2021. We're going to be looking at the leaders in each category, and we're going to end with the top 10 and who is leading the EU influencer ranking in 2021. So drum roll, please. Just before we start, a few words about our methodology. We look at the number of followers, average retweets per tweet, and the density of followers in Brussels. And new this year, we also look at the number of MEPs who mentioned this specific account. Et voila! This is how we created our EU Influencer Top 50 list, using our own unique formula and years of experience in target and influencer mappings. More on this on our website right after this event. And now we're going to the overall ranking of the top 50 influencers. Let's see who made it to the list this year. And we'll start with 50 to 41. Number 50 and back on the list is Marco Ricorda. Happy to have you back. Marco is a communication analyst and public speaker who specializes in all things migration. Hans van Gent ranks at number 49, and he's also a newcomer on the list. Hans specializes in helping smart business making more money. He is Growth Manager at Accountable, which is an app for freelancers. At 48, we have James Cantor. James is obviously the founder of the EU Screen podcast, and he previously worked for Dow Jones, The New Yorker, and the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications. Our number 47 is Laszlo Andor, a Hungarian economist and former EU commissioner. Laszlo currently is Secretary General at FEP Europe. Parody account Martini Seltzenmeyer, who loves frothing at the EU bubble, also makes an appearance and comes in at number 46. John Cienski is our new number 45. Cienski is a senior policy editor at Political Europe, reporting on transport, energy, and sustainability, and also comments on Polish politics. Olivier Hoedeman is new this year and comes in at number 44. He works in research and is a campaigns coordinator at Corporate Europe Observatory, exposing the power of corporate lobbying in the EU. Robert Madeleine ranks number 43 in the overall ranking. Robert, or Eurohumph, is a chairman at FIPRA International. Frank de Bozere ranks at number 42, and he's new this year. Frank is a weatherman as well as a climate ambassador who tweets in Dutch. Gerardo Fortuna is number 41. Fortuna is the agri-food and health editor at Euroactive.
In the category of healthcare and COVID is Andrew Stroline, and he's been tweeting about the importance of access to healthcare as a human right. And the winner of the sustainability category is Lotte Leeg, also a member of Human Rights Watch.
Now let's see who's on the 40 to 31 positions. Matthew Baldwin is number 40 this year. Matthew manages the EU 100 Climate Neutral Cities project and is EU coordinator for road safety and sustainable urban mobility. Theresa Fallon is number 39 on the EU Influencer Top 50. Fallon is founder of the Center for Russia, Europe, Asia Studies, CREAS, in Brussels. Alia Papageorgiou, known on Twitter as Eurocentrique, comes in strong at number 38. Alia just started a new job with Other Societies, and this Greek-Australian EU influencer specializes in biodiversity, sustainability, and digital diplomacy. She fights for better climate policies. Chen Rehua is number 37. Chen, a newcomer on the list, is China Daily EU's bureau chief. He covers China's economic and social transformation and uses his channel to speak out on behalf of China and the Chinese government. Darren McCaffrey comes in new at 36. Darren is a political editor and presenter at GB News, a new British TV news channel. Number 35 is Jeremy Cliff. Jeremy is the international editor at The New Statesman. A former Berlin bureau chief at The Economist, this EU influencer often tweets about Germany. Margarita Gass, communication advisor at DG Energy, ranks at number 34 this year. Gaze focused on all things energy related. James Crisp comes in at number 33. James works as a Europe editor at The Telegraph and recently left Brussels to move back to the UK. Nick Gutteridge comes in new this year at number 32. Nick is a Brussels correspondent for The Sun. Number 31 is Tom Nuttall. This EU influencer is Berlin bureau chief at The Economist.
In the category of economy and trade, we have Theresa Fallon, who works for a think tank. And the winner of the category EU politics is Dave Keating, very active in the bubble, working for France 24. And the winner of the human rights category is, of course, Andrew Stroline.
We're getting closer to the number 1. Next up, people are ranked between 30 and 21. Number 30 is Bradley Monster, who told us he really was Duncan Lumsden this year. Barely Monster is praised by many co-influencers as the go-to account for EU-related satire. Alice Stolmeyer is number 29. She works as executive director at Defend Democracy. In 2020 and 2019, Alice was our #1 female digital influencer. Number 28 is Katie Owens. Katie works at DG Health as a communications professional and specializes in both health policy and food and drink. Jennifer Baker, also known as Brussels Geek, is number 27. Jennifer is one of Brussels' top voices regarding technology and legislations, and also a sci-fi fan. Our number 26 is Paul Nemetz, Principal Advisor at the EU Commission. Instrumental for putting in place GDPR, he tweets about the influence of tech companies and how to control them. Political Europe's Associate Editor, Gareth Harding, is number 25. Gareth is new on the list and frequently tweets about the environment. He also recently published How to Fall in Love with Belgium, a convert's guide, a must-read for all expats who love to complain. Christina van Bergen moves up 9 positions and features as our number 24. A well-known ULB professor in EU policies, this EU influencer reflects on life and work on her channel. At 23, we have a newcomer, David Correda, European correspondent at Radio Radicale. David tweets in Italian. Also new on the list is Gillian Deutsch, who comes in at number 22. Deutsch, who isn't German, is health and care reporter at Political Europe. Dr. Ilham Kadri is new to the ranking and is our new number 21. CEO and president of the executive committee at Solvay Group, her engaging tone of voice and strong Twitter presence makes her one of the few business leaders on the list.
And the winner of the energy category is Ilham Kadri, the CEO of Solvay, who's been active on social media and communicating extensively on the topic. And the winner of the space category is Remco Timmermans, again, very active, very creative, and very engaged. And the winner of the technology category is, once again, Paul Nemetz from the Commission, who tweets extensively on this topic and many more.
We're getting closer to the top of the list. Next up, number 20 to 11. Monique Goyens is 4 positions up and our number 20 this year. Monique is the Director General at BIUC and acts as a strong consumer voice in Brussels. Peter Kleppe is number 19. He went up 13 places this year. Kleppe is Editor-in-Chief at Brussels Report and also policy analyst. He tweets in Dutch and English. Yannis Koutsomitis is our number 18. Yannis is European Affairs Analyst and the Managing Editor at Kappa News and also a TV producer. Our number 17 is Katja Adler, 13 positions up compared to last year. Katja is an editor at BBC Europe, a public speaker and a moderator. Lotte Leicht is our new number 16. The EU Advocacy Director at Human Rights Watch speaks English, Swedish, French, German, and Danish. Number 15 is Frédéric Simon, new to the ranking. This Euractiv news editor focuses on energy and the environment and previously worked for France 24. Sam Morgan is number 14 and another newcomer. This freelance journalist writes about European politics, climate, energy, and more. Laura Kayali makes a huge jump this year. Kayali ranks at number 13, which is up 27 positions. This EU influencer, based in Paris, is tech correspondent chez Political Europe. Our number 12 is Pablo Perez. He moves up 12 positions. Formerly based in Brussels, he now does his engaging tweeting predominantly from Spain. Florian Eder comes in at 11th place. Co-founder of Political Europe and previously editor of the Brussels Playbook, he is now going to discover Germany again.
In the category of agriculture, we have Gerardo Fortuna, who works for Euractiv. And the winner of the food and drink category is Robert Madlin, who's been an EU influencer for many years in different categories. Before he was on healthcare, and now he's been focused on food and drinks. And the winner of the transport category is John Worth. And now for the top 10, and we will reveal who is the winner, the top EU influencer this year. At number 10, we have independent journalist Samuel Stolten. At number 9, we have Lily Beyer from Politico, who joined us last year in the debates. Number 8, we have Jennifer Ranking from The Guardian. At number 7, we have regular John Worth, famous for his Brexit diagram and much, much more. Number 6, we have Pablo Suances from El Mundo. And at number 5, we have Jean Quatremer. That's right, our winner from last year, who had talked a lot about his impact in the French-speaking Twitter sphere, who is now at number 5. So bonne chance et peut-être l'année prochaine. Number 4, we have an Irishman, Tony Connolly from RTE. And now we have the big 3. At number 3, we have Dave Keating from France 24. And at number 2, we have Andrew Stroline from Human Rights Watch, who's been tweeting and getting a lot of engagement. And he's actually gone on a sabbatical a few weeks ago, so we wish him the best and we look forward to hearing from him online and offline. And finally, the number 1, the new king of Twitter is Stefan Leifert from ZDF. That's right, we have a German speaker at the top of the table. So once again, we have a different language than English at the top of the Twitter influencer ranking. So congratulations to Stefan. Looking forward to his comments and yours on this new ranking. And that's a wrap. That means we finished for this session. Thank you for all your amazing comments on Twitter. Really excited to see the conversation unfold around this. And thank you for the amazing team behind the cameras, the team of social media activators, Liara for hyper moderating, the influencers for making this a really fascinating conversation, and everybody else, including my mom and my family and my friends and my bunny, Cookie, because without you, we couldn't have done this. So join us for a drink on Flagey. Have fun. Don't forget to tweet, stay safe, and we'll see you next year. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, but the one most responsive to change. The world is changing, and it's being transformed by a new generation of communicators. The old communication model is broken, and for all those who don't want to become extinct, this video is for you. You need to understand, embrace, and connect with this new world with a new mindset. At ZN, we upgrade your team, your organization, and your story for the digital age. We love this new world. We shift, we link, we create, experiment, connect, design, play, hack, engage, share. To be one step ahead.